This is Victoria. We're from Taitronics Taipei 2020. And this is Prakash, the Vice President of Guidance of Tamil Nadu in Taiwan. And we're very glad to be here to have our honorable guest from the office in Chennai. So hello, Mr. Sarin.
Hello, Victoria. Good afternoon, and hello to Taiwan and Taitronics. Very glad to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Sarin. Mr. Clifford.
Hi Victoria, hi Prakash，你好，很高兴，我希望下次有机会，明年有机会可以来台湾参加这个活动。
非常感谢. Thank you very much. Thank you too. So first, I would like to introduce our booth a little bit. So this year, 2020, Guidance of Tamil Nadu, we have a low booth in Taiwan. And actually, we introduce a lot of information to Taiwanese people and Taiwanese companies, try to make sure that they know the Guidance of Tamil Nadu much better this year. And our staff is here. So we have many visitors. They want to know more about India and also a lot of information from Tamil Nadu as well. So you can see the booth, a lot of Taiwanese companies join the show, and we want to try to make a connection between us. So first of all, I would like to ask some questions from the guidance of Tamil Nadu because lots of people, especially they are very focused on India these years, especially when the world economy is changing. So we're actually, in 2014, the government of India initiated like Make in India. So actually, this want to encourage the companies, especially in Taiwan, they can join this kind of economic growth in India. So actually, we want to make sure that. Do we have any many opportunities in India, especially in Tamil Nadu? Can you name a few benefits or advantages of the guidance of Tamil Nadu?
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the question. I think first I would like to, express that we would have loved to be a part of, Taitronics 2020, but owing to the COVID situation, travel restrictions are there, and we couldn't participate. But our representative, Mr. Prakash, is there, and we are very thankful that it is his initiative that we were able to set up a stall in Taiwan and showcase India and Tamil Nadu as a potential investment destination for Taiwanese investors and all the investors in the region there. Now, with regard to what does Tamil Nadu has to offer, right? So Tamil Nadu, let me briefly describe what Tamil Nadu is. Tamil Nadu is the southernmost state of India. It's on it's the eastern side is on the Bay of Bengal, where you have the Sea of Bay of Bengal, right? So that is where it's geographically located. It is the second largest state economy in India with a GDP of around $250 billion, right? Now, this is a region which is very popular among electronic investors, automotive investors, general manufacturing, capital goods investors, and textile, right? These 4 or 5 sectors are very prevalent in India, in Tamil Nadu, and a lot of investors, and especially Taiwanese investors, have set their operations in our state. The reason being, number one, given that it is a coastal state, right, it is very accessible to the rest of the world. It is connected by 4 international airports, 3 major ports. That's one reason why a lot of large manufacturing Fortune 500 companies have set up their operations in Tamil Nadu. The second being the availability of skilled manpower, right? Now that's a very important requirement for complex manufacturing, especially in automotive electronics sector. So Tamil Nadu has an abundance of skilled manpower. I think we produce over 1 million skilled graduates that pass out of university, training institute, polytechnic institutes in Tamil Nadu, which feed into the entire manufacturing landscape of Tamil Nadu. The third bit is the ecosystem that is there. Tamil Nadu has always been very industrial state from the inception, from the independence of India, and because of that a lot of MSME, mid-sized, small-sized firms are there in India, which feed into the larger investors that come into Tamil Nadu, and that's one reason. That's one of the reasons why a lot of very large companies prefer to come to Tamil Nadu, because of the ecosystem that is there around. The other bit, which is also important to to note, is because of the support of the administration and the government, right? It's very important. It's not only about having your operations here, but also with regard to the support that the government gives in terms of approvals, clearances, the handholding support that's there. The speed at which things get done. That's one reason why in Tamil Nadu is the most preferred investment destination in India.
Okay, lots of people are thinking we have so many opportunities in India, especially, but why Tamil Nadu? So, what's the benefit or the most importance that we should go to Tamil Nadu instead of other states?
So like I mentioned in my previous question, right? So there are three things when anybody is doing business in, right? So if you are a businessman, you are looking at three or four things that are important to you. Do I have my my labor? Do I have my infrastructure in place, right, to set up my business? Now Tamil Nadu ranks number one when it comes to that, right? In terms of availability of skilled manpower, in terms of the ecosystem that is there. So that's one reason why people choose Tamil Nadu over other states. The second bit why they choose Tamil Nadu or other states or even other region within the subcontinent, right, is because of the connectivity, right? Most businesses that are set up here are export oriented, or they depend heavily on import, or they export a lot, right? Tamil Nadu is blessed with three very large ports, which cater to the import and export of goods and services there. Similarly, we have three or four international airports, right? And pre-COVID times, we have around 500 international weekly flights that happen from Tamil Nadu. Yeah. Right now, sorry, 1500 weekly flights. Daily is around 300. So, and we are connected to around 42 international destinations, direct international destinations. Now that's one reason where global investors or investors in India themselves would want to set up in Tamil Nadu, because of the connectivity. They don't need to change their flights, or they don't need to worry about the shipments or the transshipments, right? It's very connected. The last bit, like I told you again, it's because of the administrative support. In terms of the proactive governance, the ease of access to the local authorities here, in terms of getting approvals and clearances. And to add to the cherry to the topping is also the support in terms of incentives and subsidies that the government of Tamil Nadu provides to investors, right? In terms of both in terms of the capital subsidy that the government gives for setting up your operations, and also a certain bit of subsidies on incentives that they provide to ease out the working capital that investors have. So in terms of capital subsidy, in terms of the capital subsidy, they give up to 30% capital subsidy for certain sectors. There are stamp duty waivers. There is discount on land. Now these are all for setting up your operations. For your working capital, the government of Tamil Nadu is also supportive in terms of giving trainings, in terms of providing payroll subsidy, in terms of providing duty on electricity. So all of these things combined together is the reason why Tamil Nadu has become an industrial powerhouse, and it is also the reason why a lot of new industries, be it from India, be it from outside India, want to come and set up in Tamil Nadu.
Okay, so could you please name some companies of Chinese company that locates in Tamil Nadu, and what do they do? And so could you kind of explain the cluster in Tamil Nadu?
So, like I mentioned, the clusters in Tamil Nadu. So, Tamil Nadu is a very large state, right? It stretches. It has a coastline of around almost 1,000 kilometers, right? So, they have different pockets of industrial clusters that are there in Tamil Nadu. If you look at the north of Tamil Nadu, right, which is where Chennai is located, where we are located currently, that is a hub for automotive and electronics, right? And there you will find a lot of global brands like Hyundai's, you will find Nissan, you will find Renault. Now PSA is coming. You will find Ford, you will find Daimler that have set up manufacturing hubs here, and local companies like Ashok Leyland, TVS, Mahindras have set up the automotive manufacturing here. So it's become a hub. It's the largest exporter of passenger vehicles in India, right? With regard to electronics, right, we have a lot of companies that are there, including Taiwanese companies, companies like Salcoms, companies like Foxconn that have set up very large manufacturing bases here, companies like Samsung, companies like Flextronics, Dell, they have all set up their operations here. That is the north, Fengte. That is the north of Tamil Nadu. Now, if you look at the western side of Tamil Nadu, where you look at the Coimbatore belt, that is more the Coimbatore, Erode, Salem belt. That is where you have the capital goods manufacturing that happens here, the nuts and bolts, the valves, the screws. So basically, capital goods happening, and also the hub for textiles in Tamil Nadu, the western side of Tamil Nadu. The southern tip of Tamil Nadu, which is around the Tuticorin belt, where again there is a very large port which connects to the rest of the world, is very known for chemicals, large manufacturing, renewable energy in terms of wind blade manufacturing. So across Tamil Nadu, you have different zones which are very focused on different sectors.
Yeah, so it's in different sectors, so we can see that. But for the Taitronics, actually, lots of companies are electrical companies, so
Correct.
they might focus on the policy this year. So we noticed that there is the highlights of the new electronic policy launched in September 2020, and I think lots of companies are pretty focused in this. So could you tell us about a little bit more about this policy?
Correct. So in terms of, so we launched the electronic policy 2020 in September, purely because Tamil Nadu is, like I mentioned earlier, is the second largest electronic manufacturing base in India, but we want to be the number one, right? And it has all the ingredients to be one. And to support that, the government of Tamil Nadu, under the leadership of the Chief Minister, released the electronic policy 2020 in September. Now, the key highlights of this policy are twofold, right? Like I mentioned, one is on the setting up of the industry, the capital subsidy that you give. And the second bit is on the working capital, while the companies are operational. So in terms of the capital subsidy that the government has proposed is up to 30% of your initial investment that the government of Tamil Nadu is willing to subsidize or provide incentives of. That's number one. The second bit is with regard to giving subsidies on land. So if you are setting up, if any electronic company in Taiwan wants to come and set up operations in Tamil Nadu, there are certain districts in Tamil Nadu, if they set up, that they can get up to 50% of discount on the land, right? Then with regard to, in initial setup, like if companies are taking loan or if the companies, have cash flow problems earlier, there we have a provision for giving interest subventions, right? So in case they are taking, loans from the bank, there is a possibility of giving, interest subventions or interest subsidies. And also while registering the land, you have, exemption on stamp duty. In some cases it's 50%, in some districts it's up to 100%. Now these are all to help companies set up their initial operations. But while the operations start, the government also provides them in terms of electricity duty exemption up to 5 years, training subsidy for your employees for up to 6 months, and we focus on providing employees to women folks, so we are giving a larger training subsidy to women. For men it is 4,000 rupees for 6 months, and for women it is 6,000 rupees per month for 6 months, right? In addition to that, in certain cases, if the employment is high or the investment is high, we also roll out payroll subsidy, for the employees there. In addition to that, for the electronic manufacturers, we are also providing, discount or subsidies on patent application up to rupees 50 lakhs, right? So these are all the the various the subsidies or the incentives that the government is providing to attract investment. In addition to that, what the government is also providing is hand-holding support through an agency, that is guidance, and also ensuring that your approvals and your clearances are coming within 30 to 40 days, right? There are certain approvals that come within 30 days and certain that take 45 days. It is our mandate, it's our responsibility to ensure that anybody that's coming into Tamil Nadu, we give those approvals on time.
And so, as you mentioned, that a lot of the new policies that is launched in September. So people are wondering if we can know more about the role played by guidance of Tamil Nadu. I know there's a Mr. Clifford helping us as well, right? So for Taiwanese companies, we want actually get better access to India. So what is the role played by guidance of Tamil Nadu? Can you tell us about it?
Okay, so guidance is the nodal agency for the government of Tamil Nadu for investment promotion and facilitation, right? And to facilitate, the first thing that we did to, help facilitate investments from Taiwan, we set up the Taiwan desk. And in Taiwan, we have Mr. Prakash, who helps in identifying potential Taiwanese investors who are keen on, coming to India. And they send them to to Chennai, and they connect them us to in Chennai. And in Chennai we have Mr. Clifford, who helps them while they are in Chennai. That's the first bit that we do. The second bit is, like I told you, in helping them guide through the various processes that are required to set up your business in Tamil Nadu, right from helping you your India entry strategy, The second bit that we help investors is on identification of the land or the industrial park that they want to set up in. The third bit, which is very important, is on behalf, we represent the private sector or the client in negotiating with the government for the incentives that the company could ask for. The fourth aspect is with regard to facilitating their approvals and clearances in a time-bound manner, right? These are the four broad things, for setting up the industries. And once the industries are already set up, we also provide aftercare facilities for our investors so that once the operations are going on, that they don't have, any further issues. The other bit that we are also looking into, the fifth angle that we are also looking is a lot of Taiwanese investors, when they come to India or when they come to Tamil Nadu, they are like, okay, I set up my business, I am running my operations, but what do I do in Tamil Nadu? So we also help them, in terms of, probably where, for their family or for their children, the schooling facilities, where could they probably look at, the housing facilities, where could they probably look at. We don't provide them that, but we guide them to potential, providers of such services, in terms of visas, in terms of hospitality, in terms of healthcare, in terms of recreation. So we are also taking that services. We are ensuring that end-to-end, facilitation is provided to the Taiwanese investors.
Okay, so lastly, I would like to invite Mr. Clifford to say a little bit Chinese to our Chinese investors that what can you help, like for example, if they want to do business in Tamil Nadu or other Indian states.
Sure, sure. 首先我介绍一下我自己好了。我是印度华侨，可是我在台湾毕业的，我在台湾中国文化大学毕业的，所以我加入该店现在已经差不多8个月了，主要就是支援那个台湾那些客户，就是来这边投资的。像刚刚设定已经讲到了，就是说我们能支援的，就是说可能语言方面。像我这边的话，对于台湾那个投资者，给他们一个信任，我可以跟他们沟通，然后我可以首先就是支援他们，比如说土地的问题啊，还有那些激励一些的问题，我都可以帮他们。
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Clifford, and thank you very much, Mrs. Sarin.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And we invite all Taiwanese investors from across the sector, and most importantly, the electronic sector, to come invest in Tamil Nadu and make Tamil Nadu their second home.
Okay, thank you very much. We hope that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.